The stars above Vetrak Station glowed like scattered diamonds across the black sea of space. Ships from every corner of the galaxy floated nearby. Sleek cruisers, shining warships, glowing organic vessels. Inside the station, excitement buzzed through the air like static. It was the first day of the legendary Contest of Champions. Every 100 years, the Galactic Union held this contest. Only the strongest, smartest, and bravest warriors from each species were allowed to enter. The winner would earn respect across all worlds. They would be called the Champion of Galaxies. Crowds filled the great arena's viewing platforms. The arena itself floated in the middle of the station, surrounded by thick glass that showed the endless space beyond. Giant screens displayed the names and faces of each fighter. A low cheer rose as a shining, silver-skinned alien stepped forward. She was tall and graceful, with glowing blue lines running across her face. Her eyes sparkled like starlight. "Lyrana Velshir of Zelari Prime," the announcer called. The crowd roared. The Zelari were a proud and powerful race, known for their beauty, intelligence, and psychic abilities. Lyrana was a noble, trained since birth in the arts of mind and motion. Lyrana raised her hand with a soft smile. She had won her planet's duels with ease. To her, this contest was a formality. Then the announcer's voice lowered with a curious tone. "Next, representing the planet Earth, Captain Jonas Reeve." The cheers dimmed. Confused murmurs passed through the crowd. A large, dull-colored figure stepped out from the shadows. Jonas wore heavy, old-fashioned armor. It was gray and scratched, with no bright colors or glowing edges. His helmet had no visible screen or symbol. He looked like a walking piece of junk. A small laugh escaped Lyrana's lips. "That's the human," she whispered to the alien beside her, a snake-like creature with 6 eyes. "Did he climb out of a cave?" The creature chuckled. "Perhaps he got lost and wandered in." Lyrana spoke louder now, not bothering to hide her voice. "I wonder if Earth sent the wrong person, or maybe this is a joke." Jonas stood silently. He said nothing. His head slowly turned toward her, but his expression stayed hidden behind his helmet. There was no sign of offense, no anger, just calm stillness. The announcer, slightly unsure, continued the introductions. One by one, champions from other planets stepped forward. Massive Brakari warlords, sleek Mindrix swarm commanders, armored insectoids, and floating energy beings. But the human stood out, not because of his glory, but because of his lack of it. Lyrana's voice came again, soft but sharp. "I suppose they thought a tin man would scare us. I almost feel sorry for him." A few nearby aliens laughed. Jonas simply adjusted the weight of his gear and walked toward the waiting area. Inside the rest area, Jonas removed a small tool from his belt and quietly began adjusting a bolt on his left gauntlet. Around him, other warriors bragged, sparred, or meditated. He didn't join in. He didn't need to. Far above, a group of galactic officials watched the competitors from a glass control room. "Why is a human even here?" one insectoid official asked. "They requested entry," replied a lizard-like ambassador. "Earth's population has grown stronger. They've survived wars, disasters, but still, they are behind in tech." The insectoid said. "Let's see how long this one lasts." Later that day, the first event began, the obstacle gauntlet. Competitors had to run through a massive course filled with traps, shifting gravity, laser grids, and psychic fields. The goal was simple: survive and finish. A loud buzzer sounded. The race began. Aliens burst forward, gliding, flying, teleporting. Some activated personal shields or boosters. Lyrana leaped like a dancer, floating with grace over spinning blades and leaping between plasma beams. Jonas started last. His armor clanked as he moved forward slowly. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't fast. But each step was steady. Lyrana, far ahead, noticed him on a screen. She chuckled. "At this rate, he'll reach the end next week." The other competitors laughed as well, until one of them fell. A sharp magnetic trap pulled a Mindrix out of the air, slamming it against the wall. Another runner misjudged a gravity field and flew upward into a spinning blade. Sparks and screams echoed. Jonas didn't stop. He watched the traps carefully, learning their timing. When the field flipped, he bent low and walked forward, slow but safe. More runners dropped. Some tried to rush. Others relied too much on tech that failed under stress. Jonas passed them all. One injured alien, lying on the floor, looked up in surprise as the human reached down and pulled him out of a fire pit. "You helped me?" the alien asked, stunned. "Just doing the right thing," Jonas replied simply. The crowd began to notice. Whispers turned into discussions. The human wasn't fast, but he was still going. He avoided every trap, helped others, and moved forward with patience. Finally, only 3 contestants reached the end: Lyrana, Dreg, a giant Brakari warrior, and Jonas. Lyrana looked at the scoreboard and frowned. She had finished first. Dreg was second. Jonas was third. But still, he had finished. That wasn't supposed to happen. Later that night, in the Champions Lounge, Lyrana passed by Jonas as he sat alone, cleaning his gear. She stopped. "You made it further than I expected," she said. Jonas didn't look up. "You expected me to fail." Lyrana smiled thinly. "I expected you to break." Jonas finally raised his head. Though his helmet still covered his face, there was something calm and unshaken in his posture. He replied quietly, "You don't understand humans very well, do you?" Then he went back to cleaning. Lyrana walked away, but her smile had faded. The next morning, the great arena of Vetrak Station was silent, waiting. All eyes turned toward the screens above as the second challenge of the Contest of Champions was about to begin. This time, it wasn't about running, dodging, or strength. It was a test of intelligence, problem-solving, and leadership. The officials called it the Trial of Tactics. Each champion would enter a private simulation room. Inside, they would face a series of war games designed by advanced galactic AIs. These games would test strategy, decision-making, and adaptability. No weapons, no help, just the mind. The crowd was eager. Most believed the humans would fail here. The Zilari were famous for their advanced minds. They were trained in logic, puzzle-solving, and telepathic thinking from childhood. Lyrana sat confidently in her seat as she waited for her turn. Her long silver fingers tapped the arm of her chair lightly. She was sure this test would place her at the top. "Let's see if the Tin Man can think without his armor," she whispered. Down below, Jonas stood quietly, waiting for his turn. His armor was still on, though most of the others had removed theirs. He held his helmet under his arm and stared straight ahead. A small robot floated toward him. "Captain Jonas Reeve, Earth, you are next." He gave a nod, placed his helmet back on, and followed the robot into the simulation chamber. Inside the chamber, the room changed around him. Holograms appeared, building cities, battlefields, starships, and command maps. A voice echoed, "Your mission, save the colony. Enemy forces are landing. Resources are low. Time is short. Good luck." The timer began. Jonas looked at the map. 3 enemy waves, civilian shelters in the middle. Only 2 squadrons of defense drones. Not enough power to protect everything. Most would try to fight all the enemies at once and lose. Jonas didn't. He studied the terrain. Then, instead of spreading his drones thin, he made a strange move. He deactivated one shelter's shields and moved all drones to one side. The AI reacted fast, sending the enemy to the weak side. But Jonas was ready. Hidden under the weak-looking shelter was a minefield he had quickly placed. Boom! Half the enemy force was destroyed in seconds. Jonas activated backup generators and lured the rest of the enemies into another trap, guiding them with fake transmissions. In just 6 minutes, the entire battlefield was silent. Civilian lives saved. Defense units intact. Mission complete. Back outside, Lyrana exited her own simulation chamber with a proud smile. She had outsmarted every wave, predicted every move. Her mind was sharp, and her record time made her confident she had won the round. Then a screen appeared in the sky above the arena. It showed the top scores of the round. Captain Jonas Reeve, Earth, 6 minutes 42 seconds. Lyrana Velshir, Zilari Prime, 7 minutes 05 seconds. Drake, Brackari Stronghold, 9 minutes 13 seconds. Lyrana's eyes widened. Her name was second. That wasn't possible. The human had beaten her. Gasps and murmurs spread across the viewing decks. Is that correct? One alien whispered. That human. He outscored Lyrana. Lyrana stared at the screen. Impossible, she whispered. He must have cheated. But the galactic judges confirmed the results. No cheat, no error. One of the younger competitors, a cat-like alien, walked past Jonas and gave him a nod. Impressive thinking. Human. Jonas simply replied, thanks. Later in the rest area, Lyrana approached him again. This time, she was less playful and more curious. You really passed the AI test that fast? She asked, arms crossed. Jonas didn't look at her. I did what needed to be done. But how? She pressed. You don't have neural enhancers. No speed processors. Just your brain. Jonas shrugged. Sometimes old brains are enough. She frowned. You planned a trap in a simulation built by one of the galaxy's smartest machines. I've faced worse, he said quietly. That caught her attention. Worse. Jonas turned his head slightly. Earth's been through wars. Real ones. Not simulations. We didn't have better tech, so we learned how to think harder and faster. Lyrana said nothing, but her expression was no longer amused. Something had shifted inside her. For the first time, she wasn't looking down at Jonas. She was trying to understand him. That evening, the contestants gathered for a small banquet in the Central Dome. It wasn't formal, just a chance to eat, rest, and speak before the next challenge. Jonas sat near the back, eating quietly. His armor was still on, though he had removed the gloves. His hands were rough and scarred, the kind that told stories without words. A few curious aliens approached him now, not to laugh, but to talk. How did you fool the AI into thinking your base was unprotected? Was that a real tactic from Earth Wars? Can all humans think like that? Jonas answered simply, always calm. I'm not special. I just don't give up. That's how we're raised. Lyrana sat nearby, listening without speaking. She was used to being the smartest in the room. But now, the room listened to him. For the first time in her life, Lyrana felt something she hadn't expected. Respect for a human. She looked around and saw how others were slowly changing their opinions too. Maybe this tin man wasn't just armor and muscle after all. Maybe there was something real and powerful beneath. The third challenge of the Contest of Champions was about to begin, and this one was known as the most dangerous so far. It wasn't a test of speed. It wasn't a test of brains. This one was about survival. The event was called Trial by Storm, and it was held on a dangerous asteroid named Raven 9, located on the edge of a red dwarf star. This asteroid had wild weather, sharp terrain, and violent storms that could tear apart weak machines and weak minds alike. But it was not just the environment they had to fear. The asteroid was home to dangerous native creatures, beasts that hunted in the wind and shadows. Each team of champions would be dropped at a different location and would have to survive for 24 hours while reaching a rescue point. But there was a twist. Each team had to protect 2 civilian guests, non-warriors chosen at random. These civilians were soft, untrained, and unable to fight. Protecting them was part of the challenge. Lyrana was placed in a team with 2 strong alien fighters, one from the storm planet Croxus and one from the crystal mountains of Sharnak. She smirked. It seemed easy. Her civilians were a young scholar from Tinari and a medical worker from Sorn. Both looked scared, but Lyrana didn't worry. She trusted her strength and her skills. Elsewhere on the asteroid, Jonas landed with a small thud. His armor absorbed the impact. The area was cold and sharp, with jagged black rocks and red clouds swirling above. His team was disappointing. He had been grouped with a bird-like alien who kept complaining about the dust, and a short, nervous amphibian with no fighting skills at all. His civilians were a quiet translator from some peaceful moon, and an elderly plant being who moved slowly and coughed every few minutes. Jonas simply nodded to them and said, "Stay close." The first few hours were quiet, too quiet. Lyrana moved with grace and confidence. Her team moved like hunters, checking each cave and scanning the sky. Her civilians followed, holding on to their fear and trusting their powerful protectors. Then the storm hit. Red lightning lit the sky. Acidic rain began to fall, melting parts of the ground. The wind screamed, and through the storm came the real danger: shadow beasts. Tall, black creatures with glowing eyes and long claws. They hunted together and moved silently. Lyrana's team was attacked first. At first, they held strong. Blasts of energy hit the beasts, and Lyrana used her psychic powers to push them away. But the creatures were smart. They attacked from behind, separated the group, and knocked one of her fighters into a deep pit. Panic grew. The civilians screamed. The storm grew stronger. The last remaining fighter froze, unsure what to do. Lyrana tried to protect everyone, but even she was getting tired. The storm drained her energy, and the beasts didn't stop. Her shield flickered. Her breath grew short. Suddenly, a roar filled the air, and a large creature jumped from behind a boulder toward her. She raised her hands to block, but it never reached her. A loud bang echoed, and the creature dropped. Behind it stood Jonas, smoke rising from the barrel of his old human rifle. He had arrived, alone. "How? How did you find us?" Lyrana asked, shocked and breathing hard. Jonas didn't answer right away. He turned to the civilians. "Stay behind me." Another beast rushed from the side. Jonas didn't use powers. He didn't fly. He didn't shout. He just moved. A smooth, practiced motion. He dropped low, pulled a short blade from his side, and drove it into the creature's neck. It fell without a sound. Lyrana watched in silence. She had trained for years. Jonas looked like he had lived through years of this. Together, they guided the survivors to a nearby cave. There, under the rocky ceiling, Lyrana finally spoke. You saved us." "I saw the storm. Figured someone would need help," he replied. "But you left your team," she said. "What about your own civilians?" Jonas looked toward the entrance. "Safe. I built a shelter for them. My team's hiding with them. I told them to wait." "You did all that, and still came to help strangers?" she asked. "I couldn't let you die," he said simply. "We're in this together, contest or not." Lyrana fell silent. All her life, she believed strength meant being perfect, being the best. But now she saw something else. Strength also meant choosing to help, even when you didn't have to. Later, as the storm faded, they continued toward the rescue point. Jonas took the front, guiding the way through dangerous paths and warning of hidden traps. Lyrana walked behind him, watching every move. He was slow, but careful, calm, but alert. She noticed how he always placed his body between danger and the civilians. Even when tired, he didn't complain. He didn't panic. He just endured. They reached the rescue beacon just before the deadline. A shuttle landed, lifting them into safety. As they flew upward, Lyrana sat beside Jonas and finally said, "You're not what I expected." Jonas looked at her. "What did you expect?" She smiled, just a little. A loud, clumsy, angry man hiding in old armor. He chuckled softly. "Well, 2 out of 4 isn't bad." She laughed. It surprised even her. For the first time since the contest began, Lyrana didn't feel like the smartest or strongest. But she felt something better. Humble. And she wasn't the only one watching. From the judges' room above the arena, the Galactic Council replayed the footage. Lyrana vel Sheer, Zilari Prime. Dreg. Brackari Stronghold. The audience was silent for a moment. Then it exploded in cheers. People weren't just surprised anymore. They were impressed. That night, as the stars shone outside the glass dome of Vetrak Station, Lyrana found Jonas standing by the viewing platform alone. She stood beside him, watching the stars. "You've changed the way I see humans," she said. He glanced at her. "How's that?" She smiled softly. "I used to think of your kind as clumsy, loud, and behind in technology. Now, I see something else." "Like what?" She paused, then said, "You keep going, even when you're hurt, even when you're afraid. That kind of strength, it's rare." Jonas looked back at the stars. "We're not the smartest or the strongest, but when everything falls apart, we don't give up. That's how Earth survived." For a moment, they stood in silence. Then Lyrana said, "I won't underestimate you again." Jonas gave a quiet chuckle. "That's good, because the next round might be the hardest yet." The air on Vetrak Station had changed. It was heavier now, quieter, like the galaxy was holding its breath. Only 4 contestants remained. Jonas Reeve of Earth, Lyrana Velshir of Zilari Prime, Dreg of Brackari Stronghold, and Kalo Sin, a silent warrior from the moon world Erathis. Each had passed 4 dangerous trials. But the next challenge, Trial of Unity, was different. It would not test the body, mind, or spirit alone. It would test the ability to lead, together. For this round, the champions would be paired up, 2 per team, assigned at random. Their task, solve a crisis simulation together and bring peace to a divided alien colony on a distant planet. But here was the real twist. Each team would be sent into a different version of the same crisis. No one could copy the other. The only key to success was trust, balance, and working as one. When the names were announced, Lyrana raised her eyebrows in surprise. Team 1, Jonas Reeve, and Lyrana Velshire. Team 2, Dreg and Kalosin. Jonas, standing silently as usual, glanced over at Lyrana. She was already walking toward him, her silver eyes thoughtful. "Looks like we're finally on the same side," she said. He nodded. "You ready?" She gave a confident smile. "Always." They were transported to the simulated colony, an advanced holographic environment built to feel real. Giant cliffs surrounded them, and below sat a colony in chaos. Machines smoked. Civilians shouted. Buildings were split between 2 rival alien groups fighting over energy rights. Both sides believed they were the rightful owners of the same power source. One wrong step, and it could turn into war. The goal, stop the conflict and restore order, without violence. Jonas studied the scene. "We need to talk to both sides." Lyrana already had her datapad out. "Their leaders are refusing to meet. One side controls the power station. The other controls the water supply. They've both cut each other off." "Classic standoff," Jonas said. "We'll need to make them realize they both lose if this continues." As they moved toward the central plaza, Lyrana noticed something. "They don't trust outsiders. If we push too hard, they might unite against us." Jonas nodded. "Then we'll let them speak first." They visited the first camp, Group A, the ones holding the power station. Jonas didn't argue. He listened. The alien leader, a wide-shouldered being with 4 eyes, said bitterly, "They use our power, but give nothing. We built this colony. They owe us." Jonas calmly replied, "And what happens when you run out of water?" The leader hesitated. "You need each other," Jonas said. But you've forgotten that. Then Lyrana stepped forward. She didn't speak like a soldier, but like a diplomat. "We're not here to take sides," she said. "But if you destroy each other, this colony will fall, and you'll both lose everything." The leader sighed but gave them a temporary pass to visit the other camp. Group B controlled the water. They were more emotional, hurt by the long months of conflict. Their leader, a tall, thin being with soft skin, had tired eyes. "They see us as weak," the leader said. "They take power and give us shadows." Lyrana listened carefully. "You want respect." The leader nodded. Jonas stepped beside her. "Then don't fight like enemies. Negotiate like equals." Slowly, a plan formed. Jonas and Lyrana returned to the central square. They called both leaders to meet, not face to face, but through a shared hologram. Jonas drew a line in the air, splitting the energy map. "Here's the issue. You've built systems that depend on each other. Split them apart, and both collapse." Lyrana took over. "We propose a neutral power-sharing system. Each side appoints a manager. All data becomes public, fair, open, and monitored." Neither leader spoke at first. Then the water leader said, "What if they cheat?" Jonas replied, "Then both systems fail, and no one wins." A long pause. Finally, the power station leader spoke. "Agreed, but you stay to help set it up." Lyrana glanced at Jonas. He gave a small nod. "Deal," she said. When the simulation ended, the judges reviewed the results. Team 1, Jonas and Lyrana, had restored peace. No violence, no force, just understanding and careful balance. Team 2 had tried to control the colony by force. It had led to protests, riots, and the simulation ended in collapse. The scoreboard updated again. Finalists: Jonas Reeve and Lyrana Velshir. That night, the stars of Vetrak Station felt closer. Jonas stood by the window again. This time, Lyrana joined him without a word. She carried 2 steaming cups of something warm. She handed one to him. He took it with a quiet thanks. They sipped in silence for a while. Finally, she said, "We make a good team." Jonas smiled faintly. "Didn't expect that, did you?" She laughed softly. "No, but now I understand why you wear that old armor." He looked at her. "It's not just protection," she continued. "It's memory, purpose, a reminder of who you are." He nodded. "And who I fight for." She stared at him. "You've surprised me at every step, Jonas Reeve." He looked back out at the stars. "There's still one challenge left." "Yes," she said, "just one." Neither of them said it aloud, but both knew what came next. Only one would be crowned champion. And the final trial would not be easy. The great hall of Vetrak Station was filled with silence. The crowds that had once shouted now watched with quiet excitement. After weeks of competition, only 2 champions remained. Lyrana Velshir of Zilari Prime, noble, brilliant, and graceful. Jonas Reeve of Earth, steady, quiet, and underestimated from the beginning. They had survived every challenge: strength, storms, the mind, and diplomacy. But now came the last test, a trial that would decide the champion of the stars. High above the arena floor, the Galactic Council stood behind a long table, glowing with golden lights. One of the council members stepped forward and spoke. "Finalists, you have passed every trial, proving your worth. But the true heart of a champion is not found in strength alone. The last trial is simple, but not easy. You will face each other in open combat. No weapons, no armor, only skill, willpower, and respect." Gasps spread through the crowd. Even Lyrana blinked in surprise. Jonas looked down at his armor. His hand rested gently on its worn surface. He had never taken it off during the contest. It had become part of him. Now, for the first time in years, he had to remove it. Inside the quiet changing hall, Jonas stood alone. He began to unclip the pieces of armor slowly. Chestplate, arm guards, boots. Each part made a soft sound as it was removed, like the closing of a book he had read many times. The armor was old but strong. It had protected him through wars, storms, and pain. Now it sat beside him in silence. Jonas stood in simple clothing now. No protection. Just a man, scared and weathered. He looked into the mirror. His reflection stared back, older than most warriors, lean but steady. His body told a story, faded marks, broken bones that had healed, and muscles shaped not by perfection, but survival. He took a deep breath. It was time. On the other side, Lyrana prepared as well. She wore a simple training suit, light and flexible. She moved through slow practice stances, balancing her mind. Her movements were like dance, elegant and sharp. But her thoughts were not calm. Jonas, he had surprised her from the very start. Not with flash, but with something more difficult to explain. Heart. She had fought stronger beings, faster ones, but none who carried themselves the way Jonas did. Now she would face him not as a teammate, not as a mystery, but as an equal. And only one would win. The arena was quiet. It had changed for this final event. No lava rivers, no broken machines, no deadly beasts. Just a wide, smooth ring under a clear glass dome. Above them, the stars shone brightly. Jonas stepped into the ring from one side. Lyrana entered from the other. Both stood tall. Both bowed at once. There was no anger between them, only understanding. A bell rang. The final trial had begun. Lyrana moved first, fast and light. She struck with sharp, precise hits, aiming for balance points. Jonas blocked, shifted, and ducked, but never rushed. She circled him like a dancer. He stood like a mountain. Then he moved, quickly, unexpectedly. A sweeping motion sent her back a step. She smiled. So he was holding back before. They fought for several minutes. It was not wild or loud. It was careful, tactical, a meeting of experience and grace. Lyrana tried to use her speed to confuse him. Jonas waited for the right moments, using her energy against her. He landed a soft strike to her shoulder. She answered with a spinning leg kick that grazed his ribs. Back and forth they moved, warrior and warrior. No tricks, no weapons, just raw, honest skill. But time began to take its toll. Lyrana was young, but her breath grew shorter. Her moves, though graceful, became slower. Jonas, older and heavier, had taken hits. His side ached. Sweat dripped from his forehead, but he stood firm. Finally, she launched one last bold attack, aiming to knock him off balance and end it cleanly. But Jonas saw it coming. He caught her wrist mid-move, turned, and gently brought her to the ground in one controlled motion. She didn't hit hard. He made sure of that. The bell rang again. It was over. Jonas stepped back, offering his hand. Lyrana looked up, surprised, then smiled and took it. He helped her to her feet. The arena lights dimmed, and a single spotlight fell on the two champions. The council's voice echoed through the space. Jonas Reeve of Earth, you are the champion of the stars. The crowd erupted into cheers. But Jonas didn't raise his arms or shout. He simply nodded and looked at Lyrana. She bowed to him with pride. Well done, Jonas. You made me fight harder than anyone ever has, he replied. She smiled. I'm honored to lose to you. Later, as the celebrations filled the station, Jonas stood alone again by the viewing window. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He didn't feel like a winner. He felt grateful. He thought about every step, every person he had helped, every mistake he had made. And now, here he stood, not because he was the fastest or strongest, but because he never gave up. Behind him, Lyrana walked up. You've changed how many of us see humans, she said. He looked over. Not all humans are like me. She nodded. But maybe more should be. Jonas gave a rare smile. You know, she added, I don't think the trial was really about fighting. He tilted his head. What was it about then? She looked out at the stars. Trust, respect, and the courage to keep going, even when you're tired. Jonas chuckled. Then I passed the real test a long time ago. They stood together in silence, two warriors from different worlds, watching the galaxy unfold. And across the stars, people told the story again and again. An alien girl once scoffed at a man in old armor, but she was stunned when she saw what was beneath it. The celebrations on Vetrak Station had lasted 3 days. Lights danced across the metal towers. Flags of every known species waved in the air. Songs, music, and laughter filled the halls. It was the first time in decades the Champions Games had brought so many together in peace. And at the center of it all stood one man, Jonas Reeve, the human from Earth. Yet even as the galaxy cheered, Jonas felt a strange calm. He wasn't used to attention. He had spent most of his life in the background, fighting, protecting, enduring. Now, lights followed him wherever he walked. Children from alien worlds pointed in excitement. Leaders and warriors greeted him with respect. He appreciated the kindness, but he did not seek the spotlight. What mattered to him was the reason he came here in the first place. Jonas was called before the Galactic Council one final time, not as a competitor, but as the winner. He stood at the center of the shining chamber, where the 12 council members waited in their long robes and glowing symbols. Jonas Reeve of Earth, the head counselor, began. You have completed all 7 trials with honor. You are now the champion of the stars. With this title comes great responsibility. You may choose your reward. A glowing screen opened in the air beside him. Dozens of options appeared. A planet of his own. A seat in the council. A fleet under his command. Rare technology from ancient worlds. Wealth that would last lifetimes. The room fell silent, waiting for his answer.